In 3, 2, 1. And welcome back to Janky AF and my Janky life. All right, well, big red letter day, red Aerostar day here. We have, as you can see, I framed this 3 Aerostars in the picture. They're all together for the first time. We got the green one towed in. It did start for the great tow truck driver, and I did leave him a tip, of course. But then it sat for a few days, and now it's not starting again, so we got it on the trickle charger. This battery ain't that old, and I took it out, last year. So I'm thinking maybe I can get it warranted if it doesn't charge again. Then again, I just have to sort of actually run it and drive it, and then hopefully it'll, stay charged a little better. So we got that on the trickle charger. Unfortunately, that one did not start. We got the center console out, which had a little mold issue on it. Just sitting in a humid climate for a while. So I never properly cleaned this anyway. So we're going to clean this up. Now they make this like Angelo's fabric paint, which I guess this is technically fabric. I'm thinking about painting this, or I could just rattle can it, but then it's a lot of masking. I'm thinking about painting this maybe to match the Aerostar. Of course, the Aerostar has multiple colors now, but I think I could get some Cayman green or something close and paint the center console to match, which I think would look really good. But of course, what you all probably want to see, and shout out to Todd and Janky here, have been watching quite a lot of my Janky life recently, so I had to give an update. Here is, I don't think I've shown you as much of this one. Actually, this door was actually locked, and then for a second I thought I lost the keys, which is a very Janky thing to do, very on brand. But this thing did great. I just had this little, moisture catcher here, and not a speck. Oh, there's Lenny. Lenny's in the Aerostar. Hey, Lenny. Checking out the red Aerostar. So there is a little bit of staining on these seats. That was there previously, unfortunately. And then, according to the great seller of this vehicle, apparently there may have been like a meth head or someone, a methamphetamine enthusiast, as we like to call them, who was living or staying in here or something. And so, that's a nice little sort of story there, I guess. But otherwise, just in incredible condition. And, we'll climb all the way in the back here. Just, the little floorboards, I almost hazard to step in here and get it more dirty. And there is, which I didn't even know about, but there is the, the 4th alloy wheel. I thought maybe I was missing one. Looks like they even jacked it up to put the little donut on for me, which was very nice of the seller. Had a great interaction. Not all people on Marketplace are dirty scoundrels. Look at this. I didn't even know they made this, but this seems to be, maybe it's not, because it's not like strapped in, but it's got to be original to the vehicle, right? But if you're an Aerostar aficionado, obviously they made these center consoles for the sort of post-interior facelift. Maybe they even came on the earlier Aerostars too, this being a 90, but I've never seen this center console style, and I'm wondering if this is native to an Aerostar. Now, that is not my cold one. I don't drink and drive unless I'm drinking NAs. And we should really get some sort of NA sponsorship on this channel. I'm a big fan of the old Milwaukee myself, and also a Beck's non-alcoholic, of course, but those are hard to find. But this leather wrapped center console, it's got a ton of space in it. Your cup holders, I like how it sort of angles forward very ergonomically. The big shift lever, red everywhere. And as if you've seen on a couple of recent episodes of Here the Aerostar, the red interior did come. It was sort of on that crossover period between, 91 to 92, where the interior got facelifted. And I think the red ran, I'm guessing, from about 90 to 94-ish. And so this is obviously, a pre-facelift interior. I love this steering wheel. I have it on the 86, of course. I love the 80s-ness of this interior. I do like the post-facelift interior. It's more 90s, which is sort of more my era, and I like how it's a little bit more modern and round and swoopy, but, obviously me trying to pick a feature of an Aerostar, I just like them all. So I do really, really like this interior, and not so much not the color, which obviously I love, but just the rest of the actual sort of bits and baubles and pieces. This is an XL model, which it's fairly, my 86, as we'll see, doesn't have quite the plethora of controls and amenities here, but just look at how tight. You got your rear HVAC controls. Look at how tight and clean this headliner is to the control, and just everything is in red here. It's just amazing. That perfect headliner. I try to keep the cover over this because, as well as like, you know, rain, obviously, I don't want, you know, just sun damage. This seems like it's a little jank there. That's maybe the biggest sort of, which is weird. This like seems to have shrunk quite a bit. I don't know how that could even happen unless it's sagging down, but you know, it's just, in terms of a minivan from 1990 with a red interior on an Aerostar, you're just not gonna get much better than this. I have to think this is the nicest red interior Aerostar. If someone's got one nicer, I mean, feel free to prove me wrong. But the action, pretty good on the door. Not bad at all. These doors tend to bounce back a little bit. Obviously it's a hot day, as you can see the great, I wear these cloths on my head, I wet them down and I wear them. I do this at work a lot, and it really just sort of slow drip of water. It does dry out pretty quickly. Obviously you can see the Tennessee license plate, and these bumpers a little worse for wear. Now they will not let me insure this vehicle till I get the bumpers sorted out. As I mentioned previously, maybe I do have kind of a lead on some in Pennsylvania, but it's going to be basically a whole day going down there, and then I got to get them off, which I've taken one Aerostar bumper off. It wasn't too fun. There's some, what do they call it, captive bolts in there, and but I do really want to do that because I'd really like to get insurance on this vehicle, and it's just nice to see it without the cover on, because then I could get it towed. And God forbid, you know, I always have the battery unhooked. I tried to unhook the battery, which maybe I'll throw that clip in there. Battery's all hooked up. The cover off. This one's not starting. And we're doing it real janky here, but I had to document a little bit. I don't have high hopes, but we'll see what happens here. Nothing at all. That sucks. Jeez, not a thing. Okay, well, bust. It was just absolutely nothing. I did have it on a trickle charger for a while, but these trickle chargers seem to kind of take forever. So I think it just seems, that could be totally wrong. It just seems like it charges better when the battery's actually hooked up as opposed to just sitting there. Maybe it doesn't even charge at all when it's just sitting there, and I'm just an idiot, but yeah, that's very possible. So finally, so out of the 3 Aerostars, right, the 2 newer ones, that's a nice shot there, did not start, couldn't get them going. And this one, it's been sitting all winter in like a bank. I had it halfway down a hill, wheel chocks, hooked the battery up, second crank. It actually, first crank, it turned right over, and then it kind of, you know, didn't quite have enough, but then I just gave it some gas and it fired right up, drove out under its own power. Now, when I'm sort of operating the transmission, it just seems like I need to give it more gas than I really should. As you can see on the red one, I don't know if you noticed, but the red had switches here. These are all blanks, no power mirrors or any of that. It just seems like it's not quite there. Like, it seems like I have to give it way too much gas than I should for it to not stall out. You know, it really just needs some TLC. As you can see, my toilet collection still in here. These are really some of the cream of the crop back for an art show that we did over a year ago. So that shows you about the pace I'm moving at. And it's unfortunate because you always want to get more done than you can. But the lawns mowed, Lenny's enjoying that. We had a really nice Sunday here. Finally got to sort of crack into this mess that I've been wanting to deal with all summer. We got all this extra fencing from our fence project, and unfortunately it's undercover, but it's still sort of, you know, not the best. There's the moisture traps in it, and then, you know, I saw a snake come out of here and all sorts of critters and bugs, sort of. I think I got maybe probably one more year of storing them before it's total garbage. So hopefully maybe next summer we kind of continue our fence project, but this was just all totally bramble. Couldn't even walk in here. I've also started returning my piles of cans. Found a nice redemption center. Look at this great toilet. Shout out to Adam and John, who donated this wonderful toilet, a great urinal from Robbie Knodel way back in the day. That'll get used sometime. I'm thinking it'd be a great like key holder in the shop, and we'll get to that. This might be a little long one unless I run out of room on the old phone. So, you know, got laying all my fencing down, clearing this out area. This is just totally uninhabitable. When I started tearing out my shop, that's all, you know, drywall and laminate flooring. That's either got to go to the dump, or I got to cut it up and put it into bags, or get a dumpster, we'll deal with that. But we're making really good progress. This stove can actually go right down the road to the recycling center. We have a nice recycling center. I'm very grateful for that. They take metal as long as it doesn't have refrigerant in it. And we got to try to sell some of these wheels, these daisy wheels I was originally going to put on the Prius, and I ended up just doing the steel wheels, and I'm very happy with that decision overall. Got some tires, of course, because you got to have some tires lying around. Kind of junk tarps, but if we put 2 or 3 of them together, hopefully they'll keep the water out. So my plan is move all these. I got to get this 40-foot ladder out of here. I got some lumber, which is from the porch, the old porch that we ripped off $1 Million View. And this all comes back to the Janky ethos, of course. Try not to, waste not, want not. We all have extra materials. And yeah, you can go buy some 2x6s at Home Depot, but all this stuff adds up. So it's a little extra work to store it, but not really. It just sits there. And so the plan, which we haven't really told the sweetheart about, but we got rejected from having, it was just too close to the fence, a lean-to over there. Now this poor guy wire that, thank you for pointing out whoever did that, the guide wire or guy wire. It's so weird how, it's like all intents and purposes. People say all intensive purposes and it's actually all intents and purposes. But the funny thing is, even when you say it quote unquote incorrectly, I have a whole thing about language, all intensive purposes actually works too. So even though it's a guy wire, if you say the more obvious yet technically incorrect phrase, which would be guide wire, that still works too. So isn't that kind of a funny little quirk in the whole linguistical system? I sure think so. Anywho, we only have a little bit of room to work with here, but I'm thinking if I pin it right next to this window, so I'll leave the window there, I think I have enough width here. If I come out the long way, I have some 4x4 posts left over. Just build sort of like a little wall here, T111. I have these glass blocks I'd love to use. And then just build out a little wall, and I'd love to get those clear roofing panels because I like how it lets the light in. Just enough to stick maybe like, 1 car in temporarily, or put my parts Fiat in there so it can be undercover. And then eventually long term it'd become sort of like a little garden shed so I can keep all my gardening stuff in there. Lawnmower, weed whacker, etc., tools. And then this would really open up this space. So, and the other big thing here is you can see in the distance, we got our final Lazy Susan out, which we're going to bring in tonight. Trying to get our cabinets sorted out. And then that has finally, on some planks for the scaffold, freed up to the point where I can actually finally get the Fiat out in mid to late August. But hey, the point is we're making gains. We're sort of grabbing our life back from the clutches of hoarderism and insanity and chaos. And, to have all the Aerostars reunited is great. Now, the only catch with the Fiat is I got to get the red Aerostar out of the way first, and I can't seem to get it started. So after we get the green Aerostar moved, we'll put the trickle charger on. I think I have another one somewhere. Hopefully get the red Aerostar. Worst case scenario, we can get it into neutral, have my buddy G6, shout out to the great G6, maybe tow it out to the road and just get it out of the way. And honestly, I can probably, the Fiat's so small, I can probably, if I really needed to, angle it out here. These Trailer King tires, these came off the green Aerostar. I think we're going to put these on the red Aerostar just for the time being to get the spare off and have 4 matching, and I think they all hold air. Then we can eventually take the tires off of these are all shredded, off the alloy wheels, and I'm thinking about maybe powder coating those, but that's so far down the road. We won't even really get into that. More recyclables that's got to be taken back. We mowed all of our lawns, just finished mowing all the yards. I say yards, it's multiple yards, basically 1 yard. Hi, oh, there's the sweetheart, off camera. It's my Janky life.
Oh, I'm a part of that.
She says I'm a part of that. So there you have it. Maybe we'll cut this one off here, but this part of the shop, obviously, we started tearing out these walls, as you can kind of see in there. But we got to tear out all that insulation. I want to tear out the ceiling. I guess I don't have to, but the goal is to get all this crap out of here. Once we do the cabinets, that'll help. But there's so much stuff in here. It doesn't look like it. Maybe it does, but even just all this little stuff just adds up. All these trinkets and guitars that I haven't, nice guitars that it just, we've sort of hit rock bottom, which is nice. And now we're just building back up. So once I can get this cleared out, we will gut it, take this stupid wall out so it'll just be a normal 2-car garage. I realized that all of the door hardware for the garage door, it's like sort of blocked off and there's a gap missing around. So we're gonna have to get that sorted out, but then I'll just have a normal 2-car garage with like, you know, quite a little bit of extra space. So maybe like sort of a workbench with a chop saw, you know, build it up one day at a time. It's funny, I'm in a very interesting class position because it truly is like, well, it's working class really, but in a literal sense, it's very middle class because of all the people in all the world with all the terrible starvation and hunger and, you know, misery that people live in. But then the extreme, exorbitant, you know, just like disgusting levels of wealth that people live in too. I think, for me anyways, just one person's opinion, I really think this is like all you should wish and dream for. Maybe a tiny little bit more, but not much. You know, everybody's got to work and do something for society. And I don't mean to get on a soapbox here, but I don't mind working. I like working. You know, it's good to work. It builds character. There's a sense of accomplishment. There's a sense of purpose. I would love to get some gravel here. And I've always sort of like one of those things, like when I was a kid, leather seats were like the most luxurious thing in the world because we never had a car with leather seats. And also for some reason, like a wraparound driveway, like a driveway, imagine a driveway you never have to pull in or out of. You just go into the loop. So I think I could almost create like a little fake wraparound driveway here. And then this sign is sort of in just like sort of a weird space in our yard anyways. And then if I had my garden lean-to shed, garden center there, you could just like pull in. So anyways, neither here nor there. Talking out my butt. But so I really do, you know, this is just like a fortress we have. It's an amazing, amazing property. And I'm so lucky and fortunate to have this. And it's, you know, I've had a lot of advantages and I've had a lot of help along the way. But it's not like we're rolling in money and, you know, taking bubble baths every day. Nothing against bubble baths. So there you have it. That's my little speech. But I mean, you know, anybody that's got 3 Aerostars, it's hard to say you're doing bad, you know. So hopefully eventually there'll be 3 running and driving Aerostars and a Fiat. I think that's all you can ever really hope for. So on that note, wishing everybody, you know, success in their own way. And gotta appreciate what you have all the time. And take one more look at this just gorgeous, stunning, handsome, dashing 1986 Aerostar, and of course the 93 and the 90. My sort of sick dream is to have one of every year. So that'd be 12 Aerostars. I don't know if we'll ever get there, but maybe we shouldn't get there. Focus on what we got. Okay, I'm rambling now, which usually means it's time to wrap up. So, a nice little tour of my janky life today, I think. Hopefully you agree. And we'll catch you real soon for the next one. There's a couple real nice Aerostars out there I'd like to get episodes on if I can before they disappear. But you never know. So where should we end? Should we frame? Let's frame, maybe we can even frame, go back to the beginning and frame all 3 Aerostars as one. Last little sneak peek at the Fiat. And there you have it. So this has been my janky life here on Janky AF. We thank you very much for watching. Really appreciate it. And we'll have another one coming for you very soon. And until then, janky do thank you.